That's a really tough thing. I mean, again, that's why I use the idea of family. It's almost like, who in your family do you like best, right? It's kind of a tough question. Sometimes I really like my sister, and sometimes my dad. But for me, at the moment, what's fascinating, and this is back to the full circle thing, when I was very young, around 14, I went on a day trip to London from Leeds, which was like a big deal. I'd never been to London before, and all of that. And I, by chance, saw a late Picasso show, right? Which is funny, because I was just looking at Nick's Picasso catalog in the back. And it really, really freaked me out. I mean, I was really young, and it just completely blew me away, this late Picasso show, right? And I sort of came back from that show determined to be an artist, and for some reason that felt like the route I was going to take. And they felt free enough and crazy enough and anarchic enough, those works, that really appealed to me, coming from a city that was very anarchic and had fallen to bits and was completely fucked up. So the Picasso paintings had this like dark humor and fabulous thing. So, to cut a long story short, I get asked to be in a Picasso show at the Grand Palais recently, right? By Diana Picasso, who's Picasso's daughter, right? So she's a pretty intense, amazing person, right? So she comes to New York while I'm working on these in this other little room, right? And she comes to film, she wants to film all the artists in the show to talk about. And I'd never dared talk about this dream. I'd had this dream, I can't remember if it was after the Picasso or before, but I was really young. I had this dream, I met Picasso on a boat, and he told me to be an artist. I mean, couldn't write this shit down, right? It's like something out of Spinal Tap, but it really, the dream was vivid, and as I closed my eyes, I could recall it vividly even now. And I remember feeling his like beard, like his bristles on my face, the whole bit, right? So Diana, being Diana, gets me to talk about this on film, right? I don't mention dream to close friends, but I just say this on film, and it gets included in the Grand Palais thing. So there's like a film of me talking about this insane dream, and we go to the opening with my kids, which was already like a trip out, right? And in one room, there's all the late Picasso paintings I'd seen at 15, the actual ones. And in the next room is my sculpture, right? So it was like, like that's really too weird, and I'm telling the dream up front on film, and there's like Frank Gehry doing his thing. It was just a very strange experience. So I think these caught me at that moment, that I was really, again, letting Picasso into my consciousness in this very different way, because Diana's talking about him as a family member, right? For her, it's like Grandpa Picasso, right? Which is super weird. And she looks kind of like Picasso if you really hone in on her. She does, right? It's uncanny. It's like the more you look at her, the more you're like, whoa. So I think this was a lot, and I think, what you have with Picasso is this dramatic, both loss of figuration, right, and a real, almost obsessive desire to keep figuration. Picasso does both, right? He kind of rejects figuration, and he sort of messes with all the established ideas of figuration, yet he clings to it desperately, And at the end of his life, particularly, he's super obsessive. He's talking about Manet all the time, and Goya. And, I heard this from people who knew him, that he was obsessed with like the old masters as he got closer and closer to death. And so I think that really, there are a lot about, what happened in Cubism, what happened in, 30s Picasso, 40s, to the face, to the skull. You always feel in Picasso, the skull's never far away from the face, and abstraction's never far away from the face. And so in some ways they're kind of that too, there was happenstance that all that Picasso stuff happened while I was working on these, but oddly, cosmically made sense, You know what I mean? And then by chance Picasso had the sculpture show at MoMA at the same time, and so that sort of encouraged me in a reverse dialectic to say, well, I should show my paintings. you know, if Picasso could show his sculptures, you know, fuck it, I'm going to show my paintings. And so it was an odd kind of moment for me. It kind of really bounced around, and I think the French were freaked out that, you know, that I was such a Picasso fan. A lot of weird stuff happened surrounding that, you know.